Hey everybody, this is Josh Dukes, Erin Jones. We're the co-founders of One Residential, and we're here to drop some knowledge.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. We're going to give you relevant, market of the minute information, tips, tricks, all the things you need to know to buy and sell here in the Washington, D.C. metro area.
Let's do this.
So Josh, we are here in April. It is the thick of the spring real estate market here in the DMV. And what is one thing we see in the spring market?
We see crazy multiple offers with escalation clauses.
Escalation clauses, that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to give you the 6 top mistakes used when using the escalation clause. So the first one is putting your escalation clause on your offer when you are the only offer on the table.
Oh my God, that makes me literally want to max them out immediately. Like whatever their top price is, we're just going for that. I mean, if I was a seller, that's what I'm thinking. If I'm a listing agent, that's what I'm thinking, right?
So what you're saying is you're going to counter that offer at the top of their escalation clause, even though you have no other offers. Yeah, yes. You want that whole money, right? Yeah. As a seller, you're like, well, they're willing to pay that. How do I get that, right? So that's definitely a problem. I'm going to wait. I'm going to sit on your offer probably. I'm going to advise my seller, hey, they're telling us we should expect other offers. So why would we take their offer now? Right? We're going to wait. We're going to set a deadline after the weekend. We're going to do something like that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the next one is, number 2, is your escalating factor is too low. So the factor is the amount that you're paying over the next highest offer. So what makes it too low, Josh?
I mean, I think what makes it too low is when people think of it in little small increments. Like they're like, hey, I want to buy this $900,000 house, and the next person that gives me an offer, I'll just go maybe like $10 more, $20,
$200,
a bag of chips and a soda. You know what I mean? Like that's ridiculous.
Free pizzas for life.
Free pizzas.
Whatever. Actually, no, that's valuable. That might be good. Yeah. So if you're a seller and I'm your agent, I'm saying, hey, we have offer A. Offer A is $740,000, and that offer has no contingencies at all. No home inspection, no financing contingency. They're waived their HOA review period. Everything's waived. And then I have another offer, and that's at $745,000, so a $5,000 difference, and it has a home inspection. What are you gonna do?
I don't know. No, I definitely know. What do you think I'm going to do?
Well, you're going to decide if you're valuing safety over money. So the offer at $740,000 that's $5,000 less is a safety offer. And the $5,000 more is money. And so most sellers, I would say, would go with safety in that scenario.
For sure. And as a listing agent, we're contracted to look out for our client. So we want to go a safe and sure route instead of playing games with the seller. With their goals.
Yeah, so we're going to advise them, hey, I heard that the most important thing to you was safety, and that's what this $740,000 offer is going to provide.
For sure.
But the buyer's going to think $5,000 is a lot of money, but you have to put yourself in the seller's shoes and figure out where that is. Now, if you're in the $250,000 range, maybe $5,000 is a lot of money, but it depends on the price, right? It depends on what price range we're in. I see people sometimes, $1.2 million, and they put $5,000 on. That's typically not going to make you the winner if you have risk or contingencies. So the third one is terms that don't match your offer terms. So as you know, the escalation clause says, do I waive appraisal or do I not? And sometimes we'll see that document says waived appraisal, but then there's a full appraisal contingency in the offer. So what does that tell you about that agent or that offer?
Yeah, I mean, if something comes in and you're communicating via writing and your writing is opposite of what you're saying, then you're saying that you don't know what you're doing, number one. Number two, you're a risk.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're doing. So everybody is they're looking for a reason not to take your offer, 100%.
Well, they want to know that you know exactly what you're committed to when you're putting that offer together, and that everything is cohesive and it all makes sense with no mistakes, right?
That's right. I mean, when we see a contract, we want to know that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And if you mess everything up on the contract, you're a flight risk. I hate to say you're a hot mess. And if you're a hot mess, that's not what we're looking for when we're advising our clients on what to take.
Right. If they're already making a mistake at the offer point, what's going to happen during the transaction? And we have confidence that that transaction is going to go to closing and that the buyer's fully aware of what they've committed to, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Next, we have not wanting to pay your top number. I've seen that a lot. Actually, this past week, I had a buyer, they were going to win, and guess what? They started running numbers with their lender after they put in the offer and realized we don't want to pay that top number. And so they were going to win with their escalation, and it was going to escalate the full amount, but they decided not to move forward. Luckily, we all got out of that situation, and we didn't have to have a breach of contract during the contract period, but they realized maybe they got a little too, eager and put a number out there that didn't make sense for them.
Yeah, and I feel like the buyer agent should be really counseling and consulting with their client to understand, like, hey, look, this max number is a possibility, especially in our market. It's very dynamic. That top number, it's very possible we're going to get there. So if you put that number again, you're writing a contract, you're writing an offer, you're putting it in writing. So it needs to be followed, and you need to be willing to follow through on it.
Yeah, because the escalation clause actually says if you're escalated and the seller signs off on that, you are ratified. You have a binding contract. So you can't decide later, oh, I didn't really want to pay that much. And so one trick that we do is we actually send the price ranges from the starting price, mid price, and the top price to the lender ahead of time so they can see all the payments, they can see what they're looking at, they can understand what they've gotten themselves into, because that contract might be come back binding. And you're in it. So that's a mistake we see a lot. And Josh, number 5 is the starting price is too low in your actual offer. So this isn't on the escalation clause, this is in the offer. And what I like to say is, like, you're making the seller prove like their price, their list price, or prove that they have another offer, which, that makes sense. It's what escalation clause is there for. But that seller might be offended that your price was less than their asking price or their listing price. Have you ever had a seller do that?
Oh, for sure. In fact, a lot of times they look at it like, well, they just want to get this low price. They don't see the value in my house. So they're like, give me a reason to find somebody else.
Yeah. And, they're just sitting there like, I'm offended that they didn't even think it's worth what I thought it was. And now they want to pay X amount more. I was actually selling my personal home. Somebody offered $100,000 less than my list price, which I'm pretty confident I know what my home is worth. I look at comparable sales all day long of, all of our team's listings. And then they decided to put an escalation clause on. And so I had a cash offer versus a finance offer with escalation clauses. I had to make a tough decision in that scenario because I already thought the buyer wasn't invested in my home because their starting price was too low. So, even me as an agent, where I do this every day, there's some emotions involved there.
100%.
Yeah. Number 6, not realizing that you could be escalated against an offer with more contingencies. So this is really important when we talk about like home sale contingencies, or maybe, like we said, home inspections or things like that. Yeah. So I recently had a situation where we had a full contingencies offer that was higher than one with no contingencies, and that no contingencies offer went up about 80 to 100,000, escalating against somebody with an appraisal. So, that's not really a fair scenario. So you have to figure out if you're willing to take that risk, or maybe you add extra language that says, I've seen that before, like you can't be escalated against a home sale contingency or an offer with an appraisal or something like that. Because what you'll see is buyers, they'll just escalate sky high with an appraisal because maybe they think the appraisal is going to come in low and they'll get it low later.
Yeah. And what I also say is, if you have a home sale contingency, you have to sell your house. That is a domino effect that has to all go perfectly. And as we know, it normally doesn't at some point, right? So we really want to make sure that it is apples for apples as we go into this. If not, it's a mistake. It is.
Yeah, and that home sale contingency offer might have to bid so much more because they have that in there.
They have to.
So, you as maybe the squeaky clean offer with no contingencies, you might get stuck in the mud there because the listing agent is going to send you the competing offer and you're going to say, oh my gosh, this had so many contingencies and how is this fair? So
Yeah,
you really got to know this ahead of time. You got to know the risks and you got to know what you're doing, because you can, make a mistake very easily when it comes to this sort of stuff. So
Too easily.
if you have any questions about how to use an escalation clause, reach out, DM us, give us a call today.
Yep. Make sure you drop in some comments. We want to hear from you.